Brilliant Stories presents.
Some stories are just so wild, so full of shocking turns, you'd swear they were made up for a movie. But nope, the cases we're about to get into, they're 100% real. And the twists, they will leave you absolutely stunned.
Seriously, think about it for a second. How well do you really know the people closest to you? It's a scary thought, right? And it is right at the dark heart of every single one of these stories. They all start with people who thought they knew their family, their partners, their children, until a terrible secret blew everything apart.
Our first case starts with a young woman, Sharon Marshall, who looked like she had the entire world at her feet.
I mean, look at this. Sharon was seriously brilliant. We're talking lieutenant colonel in the ROTC, a full-ride scholarship to Georgia Tech to study aerospace engineering. Her dream? NASA. She was the absolute picture of a bright future.
But yeah, that future, it never happened. Instead, a secret pregnancy completely derailed her plans. And then she fell in with this older, super controlling guy named Franklin Delano Floyd. He becomes this totally destructive force in her life.
Her new life was a complete 180 from her NASA dreams. She ended up working as an exotic dancer just to support herself, her little boy Michael, and Floyd. And then, things got even darker. After this huge fight between Floyd and her best friend, Cheryl Comesso, a fight where he literally punched Cheryl in the face, Cheryl just vanished. And what's so chilling is that Floyd wasn't even trying to hide what a monster he was. This quote, he said it out loud to one of Sharon's coworkers who basically told her she should get away from him. It was a threat, plain and simple, and it was about to become way too real. Not long after that, Sharon is found on the side of a highway. It looks like a hit and run, but while she's in the hospital trying to recover, Floyd shows up and bans all of her friends from visiting her. Just 5 days later, she was dead. And the doctor, noticing old bruises all over her body, knew something was very wrong and classified her death as a homicide.
So after she dies, what does Floyd do? He tries to cash in an $80,000 life insurance policy, a policy he'd just taken out on her a few months before. But here's the thing. To get that money, he had to give the insurance company his real name, Franklin Delano Floyd. And that one name, it brought his entire world of lies crashing down.
All of a sudden, investigators realized who they were really dealing with. This wasn't just some abusive boyfriend. This was a predator, and he'd been doing this for decades. He had a record for abducting kids all the way back to 1962. And after he gets arrested and serves his time for some old warrants, what's the first thing he does when he gets out? He goes straight to Sharon's son Michael's elementary school and kidnaps him at gunpoint.
They caught Floyd, but Michael, the little boy, was gone. And Floyd just wouldn't say where he was. He told the police it's none of your business where he is. For years, nobody knew what happened to him.
Okay, so a huge break in the case comes from the most random place, an abandoned truck Floyd used to own. Inside, police find this envelope filled with almost 100 really disturbing photos. Some of them, they showed Sharon's friend Cheryl Comesso beaten and tied up right before she was murdered. But there were other, much older pictures of Floyd assaulting a very young girl. And this, right here, is where the case takes its most twisted, sickening turn. It turns out, the brilliant young woman who wanted to work for NASA, her name wasn't Sharon Marshall at all. Her real name was Suzanne Marie Savarkis. And Franklin Floyd, he wasn't just her husband, he was her stepfather. He had kidnapped her as a little girl, right from under her mother's nose, raised her as his own daughter using all these different fake names, assaulted her, and eventually married her. And then, in 2014, while he was sitting on death row for Cheryl's murder, Floyd finally confessed what everyone had been afraid of for years. He admitted he shot and killed his 6-year-old step-grandson, Michael, on the very same day he took him from that school.
All right, let's shift gears. Our next story, it doesn't start with a tragedy. In fact, it starts with what everyone thought was an absolute miracle.
So back in 1994, a 13-year-old kid named Nicholas Barclay vanishes from his home in Texas. He was a bit of a troubled kid, so the police figured he was probably just a runaway. Fast forward 3 years. His family gets this unbelievable call. Nicholas has been found. He's alive, all the way over in Spain, and he's telling the story about escaping a child trafficking ring. So, Nicholas's sister flies to Spain to bring him home. But there were some pretty huge problems. I mean, look at this. The real Nicholas was blonde with blue eyes. This kid, he had dark hair, brown eyes,
and a really thick French accent. But the family was so happy, so relieved, they just welcomed him home and explained away all the weird inconsistencies.
But a private investigator? He wasn't buying it. He noticed that the kid's ears just didn't match the photos of the real Nicholas. So the FBI gets involved, they do a DNA test, and, yep, the truth comes out. The person living with the Barkleys wasn't their son at all. He was Frédéric Bourdin, a 23-year-old French con artist known as the Chameleon. And this is where it gets even weirder, even more disturbing. Because, okay, it's one thing to be fooled by a professional con man, but it's something else entirely to accept him so easily, right? Why would a family ignore such obvious red flags? And the big question? What happened to the real Nicholas?
The theory that most people lean toward, one pushed by the PI and even the imposter himself, is that the family knew he was a fake from the start. They think Nicholas never actually ran away, that he was murdered, maybe by his older brother Jason. And accepting this random imposter, it was the perfect way to just close the case, to cover up a really dark family secret. Tragically, Jason died of a drug overdose before he could ever really be investigated, so we may never know the truth for sure.
Okay, our last case tonight takes us to France for a tragedy that turned a family's grief into a weapon they basically used to destroy each other for decades.
It all starts with the horrible murder of a 4-year-old boy, Gregory Villemin. For years, his family had been getting these threatening letters from someone who called themselves the Crow. Then one day, little Gregory is just taken from his own yard. They found his body later, drowned in a river with his hands and feet bound.
What happens next is just the complete collapse of this family. At first, everyone suspects a cousin, Bernard Laroche. Gregory's dad, Jean-Marie, is so convinced he's the killer that he takes matters into his own hands and shoots his cousin dead. But the suspicion didn't end there. Unbelievably, it then shifted to Gregory's own mother, Christine. Over the decades, the investigation has pointed a finger at almost every single close family member, turning them all against each other in this tragic, heartbreaking case that's still unsolved.
All 3 of these stories are just horrifying, each in their own way. But the thread that connects them all is this terrifying idea of how close evil can be, that the biggest danger isn't some stranger in the dark, but someone inside your own home.
And it all leads to this one last question. With a guy like Franklin Floyd, you see a monster, right? But his motives, as horrible as they are, kind of make a twisted criminal sense. But with the Barkleys and the Villemins, you're just left with this empty space, a mystery of who knew what and why they stayed silent, that we'll probably never solve. And it really makes you wonder, what's scarier? The evil you can actually explain, or the secrets that families are willing to take to the grave?